In this session, we have Christine Duguay from Thought Exchange. She's a L&D specialist over there. Has been in this space for over a decade, and we were just talking. You also do some consulting work, and we're talking about the power of good onboarding. And it was really intriguing having this conversation about this particular topic with Christine initially. It seems like, like what exactly would good onboarding have to do with career development? Well, we're going to find out right now. And actually, Christine, I know we did a member showcase with you. I don't know, it was just last month. It was fairly recently. But after I hide myself, I would love to, if you could just tell everybody a little bit more about your journey as an L&D professional and who you are as far as your career is concerned. Right. With that, I'm going to disappear here.
Okay. Thank you, Louis. Welcome, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here today. So as Louis mentioned, my name is Christine Duguay, and I've been working in learning and development for over 20 years now. And my career took off when I discovered this need that I have to help people find their potential. I see the possibilities in people. And so that was really what propelled me into this line of work. And so I went on to do a degree in adult education, and I am starting a degree this fall in mindfulness-based teaching and learning. It's the first university program in Canada. So I'm really excited to get started with that. And so today I will be speaking with you about what I have learned about the power of good onboarding and how that ties in with career development. I would like to start by asking you a question. And what I'd like is for you to pop in one word in the chat that describes your answer to this. So let's get going. What was your most recent onboarding experience like? So if you can take a moment to just pop in a word in the chat. Wow. Non-existent, frustrating, disorganized, diabolical. Ouch, that doesn't sound so great. So then let me ask you another question. At any time during your most recent onboarding experience, did you think about your long-term career goals, and did anyone speak with you about those? No. Right. Right. We're seeing a lot of no's, not at all, right? So my question then is, why not? Right? Is it because you're new to the organization, or that you still don't understand the business? Or a lot of companies say, well, we want them to learn this job first and then move on. I believe that we should be exploring that topic from day one, because most people want to learn. They want to grow. They want to improve in their work. And when we ask about a person's career aspirations, we create this sense of loyalty. We to them and they to us. And so let me move on to my next slide here. Right. So career development and growth are needed in organizations. And we know it's needed because it attracts, it retains, and it keeps people engaged. So recently there was a poll in a research paper by Right Management where they said that they polled employees, and that employees would likely look for career opportunities and growth outside of their company to increase their value. However, if they were to have more regular career conversations, 82% of them say they would feel more engaged. 78% would likely share their ideas. So can you imagine what that does for innovation in a company? 76% would likely look for career opportunities within their organization, and 75% of them would actually decide to stay with them. So those are some really important stats when we're thinking about career planning with employees. And we know that millennials are going to make up about 50 to 75% of the workforce by 2025. And they want much more than a job. They want to make an impact. They want to create meaningful connections. They also want recognition, and they want career and growth opportunities. So 72% of millennials that were polled said they value career advancement. And so that's a fairly significant number. Now, we know that not everybody feels that way. Like if we look at boomers, stats look like 52% and Gen Xers 64%. And that's probably because of where they are in their careers and their life already. Regardless, Gen Xers and boomers are often going to be leading millennials. And so they need to understand the importance of career advancement to retain those employees. So in my research, I found hundreds of sites that focused on how to have career conversations and found very little information about when you should do that. So I was curious about what people thought. And so I decided to post a poll on LinkedIn. And these are the results. So the majority of people who voted said, 75% of them said that we should be having that conversation from day one, and 22% at the 6-month and 3% 1 year into the role. So it sounds like I'm on to something here. And so I'd like to ask you, how many of your organizations start that career conversation from day one? Any of you? Right. So I believe, and in my experience, I've learned that good onboarding programs contribute to opening up the conversation about a person's career plan, because it creates a culture of knowledge from day one. It supports and encourages employees to want to learn and grow, and it creates a consistent experience throughout their entire career in your company. So when we interview candidates, oftentimes we talk about their current skills. What are they comfortable with, and what are they capable of doing? And while we discuss role definition and competencies during the recruitment process, we also want people to know that there's room for growth. So then once the new employee joins us, they often join an organization feeling insecure and sometimes a little confused. We use the term unconsciously incompetent, right? When people join an organization. And that can sometimes lead to them being seen differently by the people who have hired them. I've heard things like, wow, they appeared really confident during the interview process. What happened? Well, this can lead to people missing the success they had somewhere else, or feeling lost and frustrated, especially if you do not have a good onboarding program. So we often hear the term sink or swim, and I can recall a conversation with a new person who described it a little like a traumatic experience. That person was not feeling validated, not motivated, not leading to good work or feeling empowered at all. It also led to this person biding their time and looking for work elsewhere. I can't imagine any organization having that as a goal for their new employee. So I've been onboarding people remotely for many years now, and I have made many iterations to my plans based on feedback that I get from learners and leaders. And it's important for me to understand what their experience is like. So I'm going to share a couple of thoughts that people shared with me through an exchange. So this is the use of our Thought Exchange platform. And so I typically invite new hires to share feedback on their experience at the 2-week mark and at the 5-week mark. So let's look at some of the thoughts that they have shared with me. I'll give you a moment to read through some of those. Sorry about that. So as we read through these thoughts, we can see a couple of things. There are scores and stars and ranking, and that's part of the thought exchange process. What we also see are a couple of themes emerging. So a couple of themes around concerns and stress, and then appreciation for cohesive and balanced learning. So what I've discovered is when we take away the stresses of being a new person by setting them up for success with a fairly robust onboarding plan, we start to see the real person emerge much quicker. They're not distracted with insecurities and chaos. They can focus on the right things at the right time with the right people. So this is the first step, really, is removing the barriers, the stressors, and providing people with a plan. So onboarding allows them to understand how learning will be scheduled and planned out for them. So it's important for us to establish a bond with people when they join the organization. So research shows that new employees who go through a structured onboarding program are 58% more likely to be with the organization after 3 years. So a good onboarding plan is where a new employee decides to stay engaged or to become disengaged. And so focusing on the experience inspires people to see themselves with us long term, and it leads to them doing great work much faster. So when someone sees themselves working long term with an organization, they begin to envision the possibilities. I like what we're doing. I like the people. I think I can see myself doing this and this. And that's what we want. That connection is really the key for us. So in my work, I have found that the road to growth begins with discovery of self and discovery of others. So it starts on day one. And the way in which we onboard people and how that program is set up determines its success. So if we do it right, the new learner learns about themselves. The leaders learn about them as well, and they pick up on things that pave the way to greater understanding and communication. And for leaders, building that trust from the get-go is the key. If they're able to establish a bond and some deep trust with a new hire, that's going to lead to some really valuable conversations. And so what I have discovered, that two concepts that I find contribute to greater understanding and better communication are having some blended learning and social capital. It's kind of a winning combo that I've discovered over the years. So most of you, I would imagine, are very familiar with blended learning, and we offer things like e-learning and live sessions, checkpoints, projects, and so on. So through these different learning approaches, there is self-discovery. So the new hire actually discovers what topics they're most interested in or least interested in. What are some of the things that motivates them? Where are there gaps in their understanding as well? Where they might be a subject matter expert and they didn't know that before they joined the organization. Do they have an expert experience using a particular software, for example? And so these are some of the questions that we ask often in the very beginning so that we can accelerate or customize their learning as well, not having them go through the introductory period of certain things. But it helps them discover that the knowledge and skills they have are transferable, or that they're adding more than what they originally thought to the organization. And this is also helpful for leaders and for learning and development as well, because we discover things about this new employee by the types of questions they're asking or what they're curious about, how they manage their time, for example, through self-directed learning or projects and presentations, and how they're able to assimilate information and understand it for the long term. Not rote memory work, real work that leads to deeper and more meaningful understanding, which ultimately leads to quicker independent work. And that's really very important. And so this is the blended learning piece. Pardon me, my mouse is a little wild today. So social capital comes into play because I found that connecting new hires with as many people as possible in their first 4 to 6 weeks is essential to the benefits of sociability. So let's read a couple of thoughts that they have shared with us. So this is where new hires learn how organizations collaborate, communicate, and cooperate. They begin to understand what values they share, and they start to establish a sense of belonging. And so from a leader's perspective, it can also be an indicator of performance based on how they interact with other people. So we invite them to cohorts where they get to discuss learning with their peers, discuss some of their challenges, share resources, and they meet with our corporate coach to talk about what they're feeling challenged with and what they might need support with as well. They are assigned a buddy, and that helps them navigate their new environment. They're included in donut dates channels. We use Slack internally to communicate, so we set up donut dates where they get to connect and meet people that they wouldn't necessarily work with on any given day. And we also host collaborative sessions where folks are grouped together and where they get to collaborate on solutions to some of our more complex problems. So they will work with people from many different departments in the company. So the connections they make influence their learning about the business, the culture, their role, as well as other people's roles in the company. It helps them understand where they fit in and how their work contributes to our overall OKRs. So blended learning and social capital give the new hire the opportunity to learn about others, themselves, and where they fit in. They can now envision a place for themselves in the company. And so development requires conscious effort, right? So onboarding is when we can make an impression that will stick with people for the duration of their careers. We use onboarding as an opportunity to connect emotionally and socially with people. And so development takes that conscious effort, and employees need support to ensure that their leaders and the learning and development people communicate together. How are things going? You know, whether it's discussing their learning through a 30, 60, 90-day plan, or whether we solicit and give feedback through an exchange, that's the important piece. And so through those discussions from day one, you not only make powerful connections, you better understand and start to envision a new hire's career in your organization. So we want to be able to ignite that in people, but we want to be able to see the possibilities for that employee as well. So, for example, you might uncover some rock star abilities that they possess that you weren't aware of before. You can also quickly assess whether a person's ready for a stretch assignment or to work on a specific project based on skills you didn't know they had or abilities that they didn't necessarily talk about in their interview process. You can also determine their leadership capabilities and discuss those aspirations with them as well. So communicating the learning, not only what you've learned about them, but getting them to share their own reflections as well. And I've heard people say things like, I didn't know that my background in this would prove so helpful to me here. And so that's really powerful. And so just to wrap up, here's what I've learned, that in my practice, having a robust and well thought out onboarding program that includes opportunities for people to learn about themselves and for leaders to learn about their new hires leads to a successful start. And good onboarding leads to employees seeing themselves with you long term. They can envision a career with you. I believe that a good onboarding program contributes to opening up the conversation right away about a person's career plan, because it creates that culture of knowledge right away. It supports and encourages them to want to continue to learn and grow, and it creates this consistent experience throughout their entire career. And so that's my presentation. So what I'd like to do now is actually get some feedback from you, if you don't mind. And so what I'm going to do is share a new screen with you, if you don't mind. And let's see if this will work. I don't think it will. Let me stop presenting, and I'm going to try to share a new screen with you. Bear with me here. So what I'd like is
Christine,
for you to...
Hey, Christine, just real quick. Sorry to interrupt, but there's one quick question from Kate that I'm wondering if I can just send your way. She's wondering, can you just talk a little bit more about the role of a corporate coach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I can't seem to move my screen back over, so I'll just respond to your questions if you want to post them in the Q&A section. Yes, a corporate coach. So we have this wonderful human being. His name is Martin Williams, and he has worked with us now for several years. And what he does is he meets with people, and he focuses mostly on moving people from survival brain to creative brain. So we use that terminology a lot in the workplace. We know that people have triggers that might not always help them show themselves in the best light. And so what he's able to do is talk with them and work with them to get past that. So the coach, the corporate coach, is there to support people in their growth. So he helps people with balancing their health and their well-being and their learning and their performance, and keeping them accountable to their goals that they're setting out for themselves.